So we're going to go ahead and look at Marquavius Huey's attorney, Careton Matthews Sr., and we want to highlight him today, okay? We want to highlight his skill set as a lawyer that represents Marquavius Huey and see him in full action of his opening statement. And this is day 2 opening statement of Mr. Careton Matthews as he makes opening statement for Marquavius Huey before the actual jury. All right, here we go.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You guys just need to stretch anything. My name is Careton Matthews Sr., attorney Teresa Mafood, and attorney Careton Matthews Jr. We have the pleasure and the honor of representing Mr. Marquavius Huey in these proceedings. Who is Marquavius Huey? Marquavius Huey is 27 years old. He is 27 years old. He was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Born and raised in Jonesboro South housing projects, as you have heard about over these last several hours throughout these various opening statements. He has 6 other brothers and sisters, and he actually graduated, ladies and gentlemen, from South Atlanta High School in 2014. He has 2 children. He has a 4-year-old son, Major, and a 1-year-old daughter, Journey. Mr. Marquavius Huey is not a convicted felon.
See that?
He can sit on a jury. He can own a firearm. He can vote. And he can do what other law-abiding citizens can do as a non-convicted felon. He has goals, ladies and gentlemen. He has goals of being able to
all right, Abundance, relax now.
Open a store, a retail store that sells men's and women's clothing. It's one of his goals. And when he grew up in Jonesboro South, ladies and gentlemen, he grew up with various folks that live in that community. As any community that you live in, you gain friendships and you grow up together. And Mr. Huey, he grew up. He grew up with Jeffrey Williams. They were friends from childhood. That's what the evidence will show. You will learn it. Now, let's get into the Overt Act 76. This is a theft by receiving of a handgun in 2018. That's one of the overt acts in this case, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in that particular indictment, back in 2018, that actual indictment was brought by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. They brought it in 2018 against Mr. Huey. Also in 2018, they reduced it to misdemeanor disorderly conduct. They gave him 12 months probation, and they agreed to that reduction. This table, this organization, this agency.
He called him
In
agency.
2018. Now,
Look at this.
in 2018, they reached that agreement with Mr. Huey. Now here we are in 2022 when this case was indicted, and now in 23 when it's being heard, they're using the same charge that they initially charged him with, of theft by receiving of a handgun. They reduce it down to a little misdemeanor, disorderly conduct. And now they say, hey, let's tell the ladies and gentlemen of this RICO trial that this is an overt act in a RICO conspiracy in a YSL case.
Wow. Yo, that's crazy. That is crazy. Now that charge is now a part of the RICO conspiracy case. The charge that they agreed to, to settle, to do probation for it and reduce it to a criminal misdemeanor. They're using that same charge because that's a part of this RICO conspiracy. That is absolutely wild. That is absolutely wild. Yo. Oh, man.
That's what they have brought to you in this indictment. The evidence will show that in 2018, this had nothing to do with anything concerning RICO. Because the evidence will show, had it, now keep in mind, the dates 2013 to even the present is what the government just told you all yesterday, was this RICO conspiracy. So in 2018, ladies and gentlemen, if this particular overt act has anything to do with a RICO conspiracy today, why did the same agency decide in 2018 that a felony theft by receiving charge negotiated, agreed to, should get reduced down to disorderly conduct?
Disorderly conduct. Wow, man.
But this is what the evidence will show. You will learn it, and this is what's been handed to you. Now, let's break it down. This indictment. Counts 3 through 7 we're going to go through first, and then we're going to go through another grouping of counts. But there are a lot of charges in this indictment with respect to Mr. Huey. There are a lot of charges, right? But when these charges are put together the way that they are supposed to be, you will see as we get through this case that there are 2 cases that we're dealing with in these groupings, and then we're going to talk about another incident concerning the Fulton County Jail. So just stay with me. We're going to get there.
Okay.
Let's first talk about April 26th, 2019. These are counts 3 through 7.
What's Super Fox
Count
in the chat?
3, overt act 88. Mr. Huey is charged with armed robbery. They're saying that on April 26th, they're alleging that Mr. Huey, as a party to a crime, committed this armed robbery against this gentleman by the name of DeJuan Maynard. That's what that particular count talks about, an armed robbery, using a firearm with an unknown person to take these items from this person. We're going to get into details, but I'm going to go over the charges first. Count 4. They are charging Mr. Huey with overt Act 89, aggravated assault, saying that with that same firearm that Mr. Huey pointed the weapon at Mr. Maynard as he took the items, and that this makes up an aggravated assault. That's the charge. Going over the charges, then we're going to get into what the evidence is going to show. That's count 4. Count 5, the same one case we're talking about, the same one grouping, aggravated assault, because there was this other individual by the name of Damon Jenkins who was with Mr. Maynard. So they have charged Mr. Huey with this ag assault on the Damon Jenkins. Same grouping, same incident, April 26, 2019. And then count 6 are these tag-along charges that you typically come when you get charged with an armed robbery. You're going to get an ag assault, you're going to get a possession of a firearm during a commission felony. That's how the government, that's how they indict cases. Those are the charges. We'll get into all that later, but these are the charges. We'll get into that at a different stage in this trial. But that's count 6, saying that Mr. Huey had in his possession this firearm when this alleged incident happened, where they are claiming that Mr. Huey was involved. We're going to get into it. And then 7 is that same gun charge against Mr. Damon Jenkins. So that's 3 through 7, ladies and gentlemen. April 26, 2019. So what happened? Let's get into it a little bit. April 26, 2019, around 12:39 a.m. in the morning, at 741 Morosco Drive, Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia, at this apartment complex called Core Lindbergh Apartments. That's a stock photo of that particular complex. Now, here's the story. The story is that, and we're not disputing that this incident happened. We're disputing that Mr. Huey is ever a part of it. Mr. Huey stands before here. He signed an indictment and indicated that he is not guilty and he is innocent of these charges. And we stand here straight and we look you in the eye and we stand tall that Mr. Marquez Huey is innocent. So, April 26, 2019, you've got 3 individuals. They have left the apartment unit, and these 3 individuals are walking in the parking deck, right? They're walking to their car. 3 individuals. As they're walking to the car, these 3 individuals, they see 2 black males get out of a vehicle. They describe it as a black Mustang with a temporary tag. So these 3 individuals, they're in the parking deck, they're walking to their car, and 2 other individuals get out of the car, and they begin to chase these 3 individuals. There's video surveillance in the parking garage. You will likely see this video surveillance. It's the government's case, and they get to present their case however they choose. If they choose to show you a video, you will see it. Right? Now, let's talk about these 3 individuals that are walking from their apartment to their car. Damon Jenkins, he lives there. He knows the apartment complex. He knows the parking deck, right? So he lives there. He's familiar with his spot. He's familiar with his crib, right? So he runs down the parking deck. So he sees them. He's walking. He sees them. He goes down. So he goes essentially left. Okay? That's Demond Jenkins, the apartment lessee, the owner of the apartment, his crib. DeJuan Maynard.
His crib.
DeJuan Maynard is with Demond Jenkins, right? What does he do? So he's visiting his friend, Demond Jenkins. Demond Jenkins has the keys to Maynard's vehicle. Maynard is the one with the jewelry and the items, right? Maynard, he goes right, and he goes up the parking deck, right? And he's running. Now, you've got this armed robbery that is occurring. You've got Demond Jenkins going left, down the deck. You've got Maynard going right, up the deck. Now, pay close attention. The two perpetrators, they decide that they are going to go after one person, not two, right? This is an armed robbery, right? You got two perpetrators, you got three victims. One of those victims goes left, Jenkins, Maynard goes right. Maynard is the one person out of those three that those two perpetrators go after. So you got two individuals that are the perpetrators chasing Maynard up the parking deck. The third male, I guess he goes down and he is not chased. He goes down, one goes left, he ducks, the other one, Maynard goes up the deck, the two perpetrators chase Maynard. That's the story, that's how it's happening. Now, the two perpetrators, they reach Maynard. When they reach Maynard, ladies and gentlemen, Maynard, he says when he got hit with, one of them hit him with the firearm, and that they took items. Now, these are the items that Maynard says were taken. This is what he says were taken. He says a ring, a diamond 5-point star ring. He says 2 gold chain necklaces, one with a cross, another with diamonds, 1 pair of diamond earrings, a gold Gucci bracelet, a SunTrust debit card, a Gucci bag, a Louis Vuitton bag, and some cash. So you got all this grouping of items that Maynard says that was taken from him. You've got police officers galore that come over to the scene, right? So you've got responding officers, you've got white shirt officers, you've got sergeants, everybody responding there, trying to figure out what happened. They talked to Maynard and Jenkins, right? They talked to the security guard, Joel Hines. Joel Hines, he says that, I was patrolling the area. I saw this black vehicle that had been parked and running for about an hour or so. It had tinted windows, and I couldn't see inside. And, apartment owners, sometimes they'll come sit in their apartment in their cars before they go inside, so I didn't think anything of it. I didn't see anybody. I didn't get a look at anyone. So the security guard, he doesn't see any individuals that are in the black vehicle. They canvass the parking deck. The officers, they get surveillance videos from the parking garage. So that's what the officers are doing. That's what they did that night, right? Now, here's where it gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen. On April 26, 2019, at 12:39 in the morning. That's when this incident happened. Demond Jenkins, when he goes left, Demond Jenkins, who's the department owner, when he goes left, he goes downstairs, he runs out, and he happens to see an officer, he flags him down. So that officer's right there, pretty much. All right? And then other officers start coming and converging on this incident scene to try to figure out what happened. But on that same day, later that day,
That's right.
Maynard, the one whose items he claims were taken, he does this. I don't know if he does an internet search, what he does. How in the world of millions of social media people that are on social media, Instagrammers, people that have pages, Maynard calls into zone 2 and he tells the police that he just happened to be scrolling Instagram and he saw a person wearing his diamond 5-point star ring.
Oh, crap. This is the opening statement, ladies and gentlemen, of Careton Matthews Sr., a.k.a. the Silver Fox. Let's go.
Millions of social media people that are on social media, Instagrammers, people that have pages, Maynard calls into zone 2 and he tells the police that he just happened to be scrolling Instagram and he saw a person wearing his diamond 5-point star ring. Imagine that. Less than hours. So what does he do? Maynard calls in. You will hear evidence that when he calls in, that he sends some photographs. I'm going to get to that. So the case is assigned to Detective Jeffrey Henderson on April 28th, 2019. So the case now has a detective. A couple days later.
Wow. Okay.
Detective Jeffrey Henderson now has this case. What does he do when he gets the case? Well, he gets Maynard to send him these photographs. He views the video surveillance footage that he obtained from the parking deck, from the apartment complex.
Okay.
And he asks him to send some pictures of the jewelry. So send this information that you found on Instagram, send me some pictures of your jewelry, and send me some videos, and let me take a look at the video surveillances that I was able to get from the parking deck. So these are the photographs that Maynard, the victim in the case, he sends Detective Jeffrey Henderson 2 separate Instagram pictures of 2 separate people. On the left there is a picture he sends of someone else, some person in the world on social media. Maynard sends that photograph, and he sends the one on the right. The one on the right is Mr. Huey's Instagram. The one on the left is someone else's Instagram. He sends these to Maynard, to the Detective Henderson.
Yeah, cameraman. Shout out to the cameraman.
With the same ring, or the similar ring, or some ring that looks like the one that he owned.
Wow.
The same day. So he becomes his own detective. Now, the video that was obtained from the parking garage, ladies and gentlemen, that video, it shows the 2 perpetrators running after Maynard, right? One of those perpetrators has on like a black jacket and maybe some red pants or something of that nature. The other person has on a gold puff jacket and some black slacks, pants or jeans or whatever. So that's what the video is showing from the parking garage. So what does Detective Henderson do? So he goes on to Mr. Huey's page, and I guess starts scrolling Mr. Huey's page. Oh, Mr. Huey has a gold puff jacket. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In this particular, Mr. Huey's is on the right, standing in front of a black Infiniti vehicle that belongs to his lady, Justice Woodard, who is the mother of their two children, Major and Journey. On the left is a photograph. You heard Mr. App talk about that huge discovery that was sent to us. The evidence will show that that particular photograph is part of the discovery that came to us in this pile of evidence.
Wow.
That is a part of this case.
Come on, Silver Fox.
Are two young men. And what's interesting here, ladies and gentlemen, is that apparently that year, the gold puff jacket from Zara was a very popular item for young people as part of their wardrobe. We know that because you're going to learn that this is what was sent to us, and that is what was going on with the dress back in 2019. 3 different people with the same gold puff jacket that was provided to us in discovery, that the government provided to us.
The state provided evidence against their own charge against Jesus Christ.
So the gold puff jacket is relevant here. Why? Because what was Detective Jeffrey Henderson's investigation at that point? Maynard sends him these 2 hands with this similar jewelry. Maynard sends him a piece of jewelry of his own to say, hey, you know, this is what was one of the items that was taken from me. And the video, ladies and gentlemen, from the apartment complex shows a person with that similar gold puff jacket. And what does Detective Jeffrey Henderson do with that information, ladies and gentlemen? He completes it. He completes his investigation.
What?
This happened on April 26, 2019.
What?
4 days later, he gets a warrant for Mr. Huey's arrest on that investigation.
Wow.
That is the case.
Wow.
Now, there is no photographic lineup that was ever done. Maynard never says he saw Mr. Huey that night on April 26, 2019. They're not wearing masks. Mr. Devon Jenkins never selects Mr. Huey out of any photographic lineup. In fact, there was none done. There was no photographic lineup performed or attempted to be performed by Detective Henderson for the benefit of Maynard or the benefit of Jenkins in this case.
Wow, dude.
He took what he got from that video surveillance, went on to receive the information that Maynard sent him, and decided that there was enough for a warrant. No photographic identification, no fingerprints left at any of those scenes.
Come on now.
No shell casings that are linked to any firearms belonging to Mr. Huey. None of it.
Media cops.
That's what you're going to learn.
Social media cops.
You're going to learn, ladies and gentlemen, that at any arrest that was made against Mr. Huey, any arrest that was made against Mr. Huey with respect to these items that Mr. Maynard says were taken from him, a gold 5.5-star ring, these necklaces, these items that we're talking about here, the Gucci, the Louis Vuitton, the debit cards, none of those items have ever been found on Mr. Huey's person, on Mr. Huey's any car, in any residence. None. That's the state's case for those grouping of charges, ladies and gentlemen.
That's crazy.
No DNA. Detective Henderson didn't even, when they arrested Mr. Huey for those particular charges, those groupings of charges, he didn't come down to the jail and even pull him out of the cell and say, hey, I want to talk with you. Are you willing to talk with me? Of course, that's Mr. Huey's right to either talk to him or not talk to him, but he didn't even try.
Dang. Silver Fox in the building.
No other witnesses out there at that location that are going to tell you that they ever saw Mr. Huey at that location.
Exactly. How is this nigga?
That's what you're going to learn about that grouping of cases. No photographic lineup. Ladies and gentlemen, this is interesting. Listen to me very closely. You will not hear any evidence of a cell phone tower locating Mr. Huey at 741 Morosco Drive, Northeast Atlanta, Georgia. You will not hear it. In the technology-driven world that we live in, cell phone evidence is powerful in terms of being able to put people at locations. Ask me, did Detective Henderson make any efforts to do that? You will learn the answer is no.
Woo! Listen. Look, Julie said this is a great reminder of how weak the state's case is. This is the reason why I wanted to highlight the Silver Fox. Team Silver Fox. Everybody put Silver Fox in the chat right now. Put Silver Fox in the chat right now. Let him cook.
That was that grouping of cases, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? That was that case from April 26, 2019. Okay?
2019.
Now let's move on to this other grouping of cases that we just, that I want to talk about now. So let's move on to another time and another place. Let's go to October 1st, 2020.
Let the man cook, y'all.
Now, count 14, when you all get this indictment, count 14 over Act 116 charges Mr. Huey with armed robbery, alleging that Mr. Huey and another unknown person committed an armed robbery against a gentleman by the name of Gary Holloman. That's what count 14 says, by use of a firearm. That's 14. 15, we're still on October 1, 2020. These next series of counts are going to deal with one day. This particular count, 15, armed robbery, says that on that same evening, that Mr. Huey, along with this unknown person, committed this armed robbery against Domisha Coppage, who is out there with Gary Holloman at an address that we're going to get to in just a moment. But I want to go over the charges first, and we're going to get into the facts in a moment. So that's the charge right there. Count 15, an armed robbery concerning Domisha Coppage. Count 16, this is a big case, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm giving you an opportunity to try to organize it as best you can. Because we definitely have been learning all year how to organize a big case.
Shout out to my mom, y'all.
Count 16, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Like I said, whenever there's this armed robbery allegation, it's going to come with a host of other counts and charges tagging along with it. Because that's the way the state and government, that's how they do it. That's how they get down, and that's how they do it. That's their right, and that's how they want to bring it. But we're going to talk about it. Count 16 alleges aggravated assault. So whenever you commit an armed robbery, then you've got a firearm, then you're going to get an aggravated assault charge with it. That's the aggravated account charge that deals with Gary Holloman. That's 16. 17 deals with Domisha Coppage. 18 is another way of alleging an armed robbery. When you specifically use a firearm to take this clicker out of my hand, that's armed robbery. But if this clicker were an automobile, and I was sitting in this automobile, and you use a weapon to demand me to get out of the automobile, it's an armed robbery, but they call it, it's a separate charge that's called hijacking of a motor vehicle. Basically, it's an armed robbery of a car or an auto, or truck, or a vehicle.
There you go.
That's count 18.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that Mr. Huey, along with this other person, took a 2016 Buick LaCrosse from Gary Holloman. That's 18. 19, again, whenever there's a weapon that's involved, they're going to tag along this possession of a firearm to the commission of, in this case, the ag assault with a deadly weapon and the hijacking of a motor vehicle. So you're going to get a possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony charge. Same thing with respect to Ms. Coppage. Armed robbery and an aggravated assault to take that cell phone that she's saying was taken. You're going to get a count 20, a possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. And then what they've done is they said in 21 that this was gang related. So they tack on a criminal street gang charge.
They just stacking charges, man. They just stacking, bro. Stacking.
And the same thing for Ms. Coppage. So those are the street gang charges that they've alleged. That's 23. So let's get into it now. So those are the charges, ladies and gentlemen. On October 1, 2020, 250 Fulton Street, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia. Not very far from where we are now, over by the juvenile court building. They're alleging that on this particular October 1, 2020, in the evening hours, that these charges that we just talked about occur. Now let's deal with it. What is being alleged here? Gary Holloman, who's no longer with us, ladies and gentlemen. Gary Holloman sold pills for a living. He was a drug dealer. And Mr. Huey had gotten injured. And his injury was the result of a shot to his leg and being out in the public and living in the area. There was a shooting incident. He got shot. Okay? When he got shot, he ran out of the ability to get medicine the right way. So what did he do? He found that this guy Holloman that he knew through this other person, Mender, that Mr. Holloman sold Percocets. So what happens? He had been dealing with Mr. Holloman for some period of time. You're going to hear about it. And how do you know you're going to hear about it? Because when Detective Henderson comes into this courtroom and sits in this witness stand, I'm going to ask him questions about it. Now, Huey knows Gary Holloman because they had been doing business. Mr. Holloman purchased 2 or 3 pills periodically, $20 a pop, Percocets. And he dealt with Holloman various occasions. Nothing unusual. I'm gonna meet you. I'm gonna call you, right? He calls him. Huey calls Holloman from time to time, right? And when he calls Holloman from time to time, Holloman, in fact, you will learn through Henderson that Henderson, when they arrested Mr. Huey on these charges, they sit Mr. Huey down in an interview room. And when they sit Mr. Huey down in an interview room, Henderson reads him his rights. And Mr. Huey agrees to talk with him without an attorney. Because I don't have anything to hide. I'm okay talking to you without a lawyer. He sits down, talks to him. And Mr. Huey, he didn't know specifically why he was even being arrested at that moment. And you'll hear about it, right? And when you hear about it, Henderson is saying, hey, somebody's saying that you carjacked him. Okay, tell me about it. What are you talking about?
Right.
And then Huey and Detective Henderson, Huey says, okay, so you're talking about the streets have been talking. The streets been talking. They saying that I set Holloman up. They saying I set Holloman up. I didn't set Holloman up. I deal with Holloman. I didn't set this man up. Holloman chose this particular location for us to meet, and we've met before. I know this man. In fact, now here's where it gets real interesting. In fact, Huey says to Holloman, to Henderson, Detective Henderson, you can look through my phone. So, Henderson looks through the phone. And what does he see, ladies and gentlemen? He sees
Your Honor, we're going to object to this portion of
basis.
self-serving hearsay.
Yep, the evidence will We'll show
I'll overrule the objection.
Oh,
you. Yeah.
well, be quiet, Hilton. Be quiet. Let the man cook. Let the man cook.
Show, ladies and gentlemen, that Henderson, they have the phone out. Huey's leaning over. Henderson has the phone. They're scrolling. Okay. But the warrants had already been written up. He was in jail. He was arrested that night. He was being arrested for it on the 24th of November, 2020. But Mr. Huey shows Mr. Henderson that he and Holloman had a relationship. You got something I want, you got something that I want to get, some Percocets, they're available. That was our relationship, right? Now, that's what Huey says to Henderson, and is corroborated in a phone that belonged to Mr. Huey that Henderson was allowed to look at on that particular morning when they arrested this man. So that's what came out from Mr. Huey. Let's talk about what came out from Mr. Holland, what he called 911. So what does Holloman basically say in the 911 call? He says that I just got robbed, and he says, my nephew homeboy robbed me. My nephew's homeboy robbed me. That's what he says. And I was meeting with him because my nephew wanted me to give him some money to put on my nephew's books at the Fulton County Jail. That's what Holloman says to 911. Now, you're going to ask yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is going to show that you don't need to give money to your nephew's homeboy to put on your nephew's books at the Fulton County Jail. The evidence will show there are many ways in which you can put money on somebody's books at the Fulton County Jail instead of giving money to your nephew's homeboy.
Exactly.
So you are going to have to reconcile that story that my man Holloman told 911, and in the 911 call, he didn't say, that's what he said, my nephew's homeboys, I'm putting some money, giving money to giving some money to my nephew homeboy. That's what he said. So you're going to reconcile those. You're going to have to balance those two versions of events. You're going to have to ask yourself, and here's the other thing you're going to learn with this same case. You're going to learn that Mr. Holloman tells Mr. Henderson that Mr. Huey didn't have a firearm. And he's going to say, whatever he's going to say from my understanding is somebody just walked up out of the dark and put a stick on him and took his car, not Mr. Huey. What is Jomisha Coppage? Jomisha Coppage, you're going to learn that she actually lived at 250 Fulton Street, right? And that Mr. Holloman was there to meet her, right? And you're going to learn from Delisha Coppage, if they decide to call her as a witness, that they interviewed Delisha Coppage in September of 2022, shortly after they indicted this case that we're here today on. They decided to go out, do their field interviews of their alleged victims and talk to them. In September of 2022, Delisha Coppage tells Officer Investigator Viverito, she tells this law enforcement person that, they took BG's car, Gary Holloman, BG. They took BG's car, and they also took my car. So the other one left in my car. You will hear that.
Wow.
And there had been no information, allegations of her car ever being taken on October 1, 2020 until September 22nd, 2022, when she told it to Investigator Viverito. Mr. Hughes not even charged with taking Delisha Coppage's vehicle. Why would she say something like that? So you all, as the triers of fact, fancy little phrase that we use in the legal business, you all, as the deciders, will have to determine with whom you will believe. What is the credibility? So those are things and decisions that you will have to make. But her car was never, ever taken. These are the items that were claimed that had been taken: a Buick LaCrosse, Gary Holloman's cell phone, Delisha Coppage's cell phone, and Mr. Holloman tells him $10,000 in cash. You will be assessing the credibility of the witnesses throughout this case. For each of these wrongfully accused individuals that are seated at these tables. Now, witnesses are going to come into this courtroom, and they're going to sit right here. And you'll see me. You may see Attorney CJ. You may see some of these other lawyers. We're going to be standing right here, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to be asking them questions on the witness stand. And they come into this court and raise their hand, promising to tell them God's honest truth. And when we get them into this courtroom, and when we cross-examine them, and we bring it out and establish certain things, we're going to come back to you, and we're going to tell you why, when we set this in opening, that this is the way it should go. Let's change gears. One last gear, a few last gears to change. I know it's a long day. We're getting there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to a different day and time. So that was that case. So we have covered counts 3 through 7 for an April 26, 2019 situation. We have covered, and by the way, before I get into this, let me back up one more step. No Buick LaCrosse was ever found in Mr. Huey's possession. No cell phone was ever found in Mr. Huey's possession belonging to Delisha Coppage, Gary Holloman. And in fact, there's technology out here, ladies and gentlemen, where these smartphones, these iPhones, they stay on, right? You can track these bad boys. we're gonna be asking questions down the line. So when I'm up standing and cross-examining and talking to these witnesses, pay very close attention to, that technology, these smartphones. What did Detective Henderson do to follow up?
Mr. Matthews, I hate to interrupt your opening remarks. Can we take a brief conference break? How much longer do you have, sir?
Shout out to the Silver Fox for sure. Hold on. Let me see if I can get part two of this, boy. In the meantime, in between time, go ahead and like this video, share this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Those that are watching this live after the fact, we're gonna see what happens. But until next time, it's your boy Tay Biz. I'm gonna holler at y'all in a minute. Hey, yo, keep your head up. Peace.